Welcome everyone to this new video series where we're gonna discuss and demonstrate how we can have an Allen Bradley PLC communicate directly with an SQL server. And to accomplish such a task, the first process or step we have to go through is the login to the SQL Server, which we're gonna see in this first video. So let's start. So as we see here, we have in our program just a couple rungs to handle the login to our SQL Server. So the first rung here is just a message instruction to handle the deletion of any sockets in case of a communication error, for example, so we can start fresh every time we have a communication error. And then in the second rung in here, we have this add-on instruction, SQL login, that will allow us to successfully log into our SQL server once we enter the all the required information, which we're going to see here in a second. So let's expand this add-on instruction and let's see what parameters we need to configure. So as we have here, we can see the SQL login configuration. So these are the parameters we have to fill in to be able to log into our SQL server. So the first parameter we have here is the server. So now the server is essentially the name of the computer that's hosting the SQL server. So in my case, I'm using the same computer where I'm running my program in here. So if I go here to my SQL Management Studio, as you can see here, this is the name of my server. So it's just Win7-64, and that's what I'm gonna put in here as first parameter. So I'm gonna go Windows 7-64, and that's good for that. And then for the server IP, so I'm going to use the IP of my server, which is this one here, 192.168.1.44, and also we want to specify the port we're using to communicate with the SQL server. By default it's 1433, but if you use a different port then you have to specify that in here. And that will take care of our IP and port. I have SQL Express, that's my instance, and that is coming from essentially, if we look here, that is our instance after the backslash in there. So we're going to enter that in here. So we have our instance, and then the next parameter is our username. So I'm just going to put the SA, which is a SQL admin username, or we could put something else depending on our case. And then the next parameter is the password. Now my password is just password and a couple exclamation marks. And after that we need to specify the database name. So in my case, my database that I want to connect to is this one here, Logix DB. So I'm going to specify that in here, Logix DB, and that should be good. And then the next two parameters, they're optional for the table and the client name, so you don't have to fill those in to be able to log in. But for me, just for the client name, I'm gonna put this one is a compact Logix. I'm just gonna put compact logic here, just abbreviated. Now this is what this will do for us is, if we are looking at the traffic and we want to know who's requesting what. Let's say we have multiple PLCs requesting and communicating with this SQL server, then this will help us quickly identify which PLC is requesting and log into the data. But like I said, it's optional. So that's about the parameters we have to put in to be able to log in to our server and open up the channel that will allow us to send and retrieve data back and forth. So let's toggle this, and then as you see right away, we have the status that SQL has been successfully logged in. Now to demonstrate that, so we know that's for sure everything worked successfully, we can actually monitor that using Wireshark. I mean, as you see here is the message that everything went okay, the first one. But I'm just gonna restart this just to show you, and I'm gonna untoggle this and then toggle it back in, and as you see right away, we have the login message request and response. And as you see here, the first request, it's pre-login, and then you get a response, and then after that there is a login request, and then there is the response. That's how the SQL behind the scenes will allow you to open up a channel. Now let's say for some reason we have some communication problem or errors and etc. So if I go back in here, and I'm just going to untoggle that for a second, and I'm just going to unplug the communication to my SQL server. If I attempt to log in now, you will see immediately we have a communication error, and as you see here in the Wireshark, there's nothing's going on, because obviously we have no communication, like I just unplugged the cable. So it will just keep attempting to communicate until that communication is corrected. So now if I go back and plug my cable, my network cable, we will see that immediately we have the SQL logged in, and then you can see the message in Wireshark as well. And that's for the communication. In the same way, if I go here and untoggle this, and let's say for some reason we put the wrong password in the parameters. So instead of putting password, for example, with a couple exclamation marks, I just put 1. So if I do that, and now I attempt to log in, we can see that immediately we have an SQL error. And in fact, if I go here to the response, you will see right away there is an error right there, and you will see that login failed for user SA, which what we specified. Now if I go back and toggle this and then correct the issue, and then put the correct password, just like this, at the exclamation mark, click OK, and we toggle back to attempt to log in again, and you can see immediately we logged in. And then if we look at the next message here in Wireshark, we can see that we are successfully logged into our SQL server because we're going to get a login acknowledge right there. So that's confirmed that we logged in successfully. And now that we are logged into our SQL Server, as we are going to see in the following videos, we will be able to log in data from our PLC directly to our database that was specified earlier in the parameters. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.